On top, write the word integers. And today we're talking about adding. Well, first of all, what is an integer, just so you know? What is an integer? It's kind of a complicated sounding word for really something that's really pretty simple. Jacob?
Something that has no beginning and no end. Or
Well, there are no beginning to end to integers, but that's not what they are necessarily. Be like God.
like
That is an integer. Gary?
It's a set of numbers, negative and positive whole numbers.
Exactly right. It's negative and positive. The key here is it is whole numbers, which means it's not fractions or decimals, which should be good because you don't have to worry about working with. When we do a number line, that was this. You know, we have 0 here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we've got the negatives of all those, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and forever that way as well. And when we add them, let's say I've got this, and the book kind of overcomplicates this in my opinion, but here's what you might see. If I have a, let's just do this. If I have a +4 plus a +3, okay? If you have that, when you do that, really it's just this. If you're thinking about it in terms of number lines, first of all, you know what the answer is to this, 4 plus 3, because we deal with positive numbers. The answer is 7. But when you add numbers, or when you have positive numbers, you move to the right. When you subtract or have negatives, you go to the left. So I'm starting at 4, and I add 3 to it. 1, 2, 3. That puts me at that 7 that's right there. Okay? Now the reason I tell you that is because what if I have a +4 plus a -3? Well, if you add a negative to something, it's very much like you're subtracting that, but it works just like this, except when you have a negative number, you go backwards. So I'm starting at +4 here, and I'm going backwards 1, 2, 3 places. +4 plus a -3 is 1. I also like to think about it in terms of money. Positive numbers is money that you have. Negative would be money that you owe. If you have $4, okay, you owe somebody $3, you have to give them those $3, and you're left with just having 1. So what happens when you have two negatives? Let's say I have a -3 plus another -2. Okay, well it is like owing somebody $3. Then you have to owe them another $2, maybe because you went to the movies or whatever. Now you're going to owe them $5, which would be the same thing if I started at this -3 and go back 2 places because it's negative. I end up with that -5 there. The book kind of throws down. Well, no, it doesn't. I suppose there's some things that you can. There's some things that you can maybe. Rules that you can maybe look at here. Write this down. If both numbers have the same sign, you are always going to add them together. Add together and keep that sign. Okay? I'll talk about that for just a second as soon as you write that down. If both of the numbers you're adding together have the same sign, if they're both positive or both negative, you'll end up adding those two numbers together. Okay? But you need to keep whatever sign it is that they start off being. If they're both positive, they're going to end up being positive. If they're both negative, it's going to be negative. Okay, so if I had a -18 plus a -3, if they're both the same sign, I'm going to add those two numbers together. What is 18 and 3? 21. but I have to keep the sign that they started off with, because it's like going in the hole. You start off being that much in the hole, and then you're going more in the hole, so you add them together. So that's a negative 21. Or if it was a positive 15 plus a positive 12. Both the same sign, they're both positive, so you add them together, you get 27, and you keep the sign that they started out being. That's rule number 1. Question on rule number 1? Smith, please. Jacob?
Do you always have to put plus 27 again?
No. If it's positive, we don't. Generally, we don't put positive. But in this case, because we're talking about positive negatives, we will. Now, on the other side, rule number 2 gets to be where it's a little goofier. If they have opposite signs, in other words, if one of them is positive and one is negative, you will always subtract them. And you keep the sign of the bigger number. You keep the sign of the bigger. If they have opposite signs, one's positive, one's negative, and you're adding them together, you'll always subtract those two numbers. And whatever number was bigger, you keep that sign because you were, had more or were more in the whole. And I'll talk about that just shortly here. They give you a lot of stuff here if you want to do it. So if I have a positive 12 plus a negative 15, the first thing you realize is they have opposite signs. So you're going to subtract. What's 15 minus 12? Well, it's 3. And then you make it negative because whatever the bigger number is going to be the sign of your difference. Okay? Because you owe somebody 15, you have 12, you have to give them the 12, you're going to be left with owing them still 3. So if they have opposite signs, you're going to subtract. And you take the sign of the bigger one. If you have a negative 35 plus a positive 20, they don't have the same sign, so you're going to subtract. What's 35 minus 20? 15. And is it going to be positive or negative? Negative because the negative one is bigger. What if you have a negative 30 plus positive 45. Opposite signs mean you're going to subtract them. 45 from 30 or 30 from 45 is 15. Will it be positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive because the bigger one is the positive. Everybody's pretty happy about that? So let me give you, let's do a couple here. Let's do this. Do negative 6 plus a positive 2. You give me the answers to these. Negative 6 plus negative 2. Positive 6 plus positive 2. Negative 6 plus negative 2. Give me the answer to those 4 problems there. Write them down and give me the answers there. Let's see what we get here. How about for this first one? Negative 6 plus 2 is, Gary? Correct. Negative 4. Opposite signs, you subtract, take the sign of the bigger one. Negative 6 plus a negative 2. Jacob?
8.
Same signs mean you add, take the sign of the numbers you added. Positive 6 plus 2. Positive 6 plus 2. It's a tough one. Peter? Positive 8, correct. And a positive 6 plus a negative 2. Positive 6 plus a negative 2, Gary?
4.
Positive 4, right. Hence the reason why you'll hear me say there's really no such thing as subtraction in math, there's just adding negative numbers. Because that's what this is, 6 minus 2. Adding a negative number is the same as what subtraction is. Everybody seems to be pretty happy about that. Unfortunately, that's not today's complicated message. Take out